Echoplex Media streams 7 days a week on twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. With a variety of hosts and topics, there's bound to be something you'll like, or hate so much you can't stop watching it. All times are Pacific. Check out our full schedule at echoplexmedia.com.
The liberals, not the conservatives, are the one who pound.
See the same people every other day, but we never say hey, cause we're never looking the way, or my face was in my notebook, we passed each other, didn't look. But these are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, overlapping side by side, big small towns. I see new people every day. Everyone's on their way, doing the things that failed their day. And I'm going places too, doing the things that I do with my time. We are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, diagonal, top to bottom, big small towns. Be nice to the people of the towns, once in a while look around, cause what's going around's coming around. What came around's coming around. What's going around's coming around. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around the big small towns.
All right, everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do the show live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. You can support this project many ways. Just go to echoplexmedia.com/support. Swag shop's the best way, but we don't mind if you support in other ways. Anyway, I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr.
And what's up? This is the Councilman. You can find me on Twitter if it's still there at THE_Councilman. And I just took some emergency because I'm all stuffed up. So I might be flying high during this show on vitamin C and good stuff. Also alcohol and, more controlled substances.
Very cool. Very cool. Hope you're not too sick, but you have a baby, so that baby's gonna just it's just going to be a germ factory. It's going to get even worse too as the baby starts preschool, kindergarten, all that stuff. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I woke up today. Like we both woke up like, but with her, it's a little funnier sounding, right? With me, it's kind of disgusting. So I'm gonna avoid doing that. But it's good to see you as always, big gay producer Dave. Really happy to be here. Excited about the docket tonight. We got a lot to cover, and it's pretty exciting. It runs the gamut.
Yeah, should be a real one. Speaking of the docket, we should probably just get right to it here. What do we have for leading off this evening?
Ed 209 is back.
Ed 209, and it's not even coming out of fucking evil Beto in San Jose.
No, this is San Francisco. The police are really adamant about needing killer robots. So we'll see if they're going to resubmit. It looks like.
San Francisco's killer robot debate is back. After being rejected just months ago, the idea was brought up again during last night's police commission meeting. ABC7 News reporter Gloria Rodriguez is in the newsroom with more on that.
Good morning, Reggie. There was an uproar over the idea just a few months ago that got national attention. Well, it appears this isn't the end of the discussion. Killer robots were mentioned during last night's police commission meeting. You may remember that SFPD drafted a policy to allow for the lethally armed robots. The department claimed they would only be used in extreme situations for violent suspects that pose immediate risks to life. Initially, the robots were approved, but the Board of Supervisors ended up blocking the policy. Here's what was said last night.
When you're looking at these remotely piloted vehicles, they're actually probably more precise than any of our other force options in that we won't accidentally get a bystander. We might not hit another vehicle. This will go directly to whoever the gunman is in this prolonged attack. So I think we are still interested in resubmitting our proposal.
This is too soon. It's triggering. It's painful that you're discussing which ways to kill us, how maybe an officer could be protected by having the robot kill us instead of the officer, bringing in military equipment. Come on now, have some sensitivity to people.
And you just heard right there some speaking out against the killer robots in public comment. That woman alluding to the recent Tyree Nichols case. And there was no timeline given for when the proposal might be revisited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like that. Actually, the person who was via remote for the San Francisco Soups had a pretty good point. She's like, be a little more sensitive to people. Like, why are you like openly discussing how you're going to take somebody out here?
Yeah, it's kind of gross, really. And she's got a good point. It's like this is going to be used, I mean, to kill, brown and black people, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I suppose like if they get this thing, they're going to be fairly hesitant to use it. I would hope, or I don't know. Maybe they won't.
One would think. I mean, but they seem pretty like that. Spokesperson from the police sounded pretty cocksure about it. This is the safest force option we have. So basically, if there's ever any question of officer safety, right, or concern about officer decision making ability, right, or cowboy attitude, cowgirl attitude, they'll send in the robot. But who's staffing the robot, right? Who's controlling the robot? It's just another human, another cop with the same tendencies and the same attitudes. So it's more precise, like it can aim better. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, they're saying that the robot will show up, look around, and figure out exactly where to explode, I suppose.
Right. I mean, I don't understand how a really well-trained cop couldn't do the same. And it's still going to have to be, manipulating the robot. This robot is not like it's not AI, right? It's not self-propelling. It's not sentient, right? It's not going to make decisions like that. So it's pretty much just like an avatar for the cop themselves.
I'm imagining an actual like AI robot assessing a threat to the community and then just turning right back around and going back where it came from and blowing that shit up.
Right. Like they send it into like a sort of protest, right, or demonstration, right, situation, and it's like, protesters not doing anything, chanting, clapping. I'm leaving now. I will go bust someone for speeding.
No, the robot like joins the protest.
Yeah, right. Fight the power. Fight the power. Number 5 alive.
Beat Boo Boo. That's a problematic fucking movie.
It's such a problematic movie.
That dude in Indian space. My God.
Well, and not just because of exactly. And then Ali Sheedy, just Ali Sheedy, pretty much. Anyway, that's my whole argument. So we'll see what happens. It doesn't sound as though the robots are going to go anywhere in San Francisco, but with Mayor Beto, who we'll hear from later, he wants to hire more cops. So maybe the easiest way to hire more cops is to hire more RoboCops.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'm just not sure. Like, what we're like. I don't know. Like, where is everything headed? Why? Like, what happens if this? Like, I don't know. Like, what happens if somebody hacks the robot? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be like how are they going to communicate? I just have so many questions. There's
open
especially in the Bay Area. There's a lot of Elon Musk. Like, let's just say Elon Musk fired a lot of people with tech skills recently, who might be the kinds of people who could take control of such a robot, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, make it open source then. Oh shit.
Well, I mean, it probably whatever it's doing, it's probably sitting on top of a bunch of open source technology. That's going to be harder to hack, but like eventually it's going to be like a wireless technology. And, we know that wireless technology is pretty easy to break into. Like if somebody, the reason nobody hacks into your Wi-Fi router and intercepts your web traffic is nobody gives a fuck what you're doing.
This is the thing I try to explain to folks who think that they're being watched, right? Like on all the folks you cover on the Sunday show, right? It's like, really? There's someone who's that fucking bored who needs to be watching what you're checking out on the on YouTube, right? Or on the internet? Give me a break.
Right. But something like this, and I understand the military has like secure communication. We've never had one of our drones hacked, at least to my knowledge. But I don't know,
what
like
our balloons.
Oh, man, we tried not to talk about that on Sunday. Did our best. So let's move on down to Santa Clara County, and apparently they're going to expand a gun violence strike team here in Santa Clara County. Let's see how Fox 2 covers this.
Santa Clara County is expanding a task force that targets people who are illegally in possession of firearms. Now, the county calls it a gun violence strike team, and the expansion comes after the recent mass shooting in Half Moon Bay. KTVU's Mark Sayre live tonight there in San Jose with a closer look at how this unit operates. Mark.
Well, my county leaders concede that there's no way they can know if the work of this strike team could actually prevent any kind of mass casualty event. But they do say if they can get guns out of the hands of people that already have existing court orders or possibly are making threats, it could make a difference. The 66-year-old gunman who went on a shooting spree in Half Moon Bay had legally purchased his firearm and had no prior contact with law enforcement. The shooter at the Gilroy Garlic Festival had legally purchased his gun in Nevada. In both of these cases and others, there was nothing to trigger any law enforcement action in advance.
We all know in our community too well the negative impacts of gun violence.
Now, Santa Clara County is vastly expanding what it calls its gun violence strike team, which can quickly react to any potential threats if and when they are reported. The team will also follow up to make sure guns which are already subject to court orders, such as in domestic violence cases, are removed.
The sole purpose of this team is to get guns off the street and people who have restraining orders to take guns from people really, frankly, who shouldn't have them.
The program is run by the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office and currently has 5 people. On Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors is set to approve nearly $1 million for several new positions, and cooperative agreements are now in place with local and federal partners to bring the total unit size to 23.
Other jurisdictions are doing way more gun violence restraining orders than we are, and we need to up our capacity so that every time someone makes a threat and has a gun, that we have the resources to get that court order and to remove the guns from that person.
County leaders also hope that by keeping the dialogue open on the issue of reporting potential threats, it could prompt more people to step forward and possibly prevent a future tragedy.
What we want to make sure of is that if people see red flags, that they are reporting. That is the only way for us to know that somebody is a danger, is for somebody to report.
Now, prosecutors are clear they can't do any of this work without an order from a judge, but they also say they can get those orders fairly quickly from a judge, especially in the case of a documented threat, say, of potential mass violence. The County Board of Supervisors is set to vote on this tomorrow morning at the regular meeting at 9:30 a.m. Reporting live from downtown San Jose, I'm Mark Sayer, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
All right, Mark, thank you.
So if I'm not mistaken, this is designed to like respond to or preempt like I guess mass casualty events. Was that what's going on here, Councilman?
Yeah, I mean it's basically prioritizing crimes that are crimes, right? Like there are all myriad of crimes, right? And police only have so much time. Law enforcement, sheriff's office only have so much time on their hands, and so many officers and so many deputies because of constraints, budgetary constraints and other constraints. So they have to, unfortunately, triage crimes. So obviously the murders, the death kills, the physical crimes, right, are obviously prioritized. The harm crimes, and especially crimes that are happening like right now, right? Like if you call 911, you're like, my house got broken into and some shit got stolen. Are they still there? No, this was like hours ago. Oh, please call 311. or an officer will be out in 2 weeks to take a report from you. They prioritize crimes that are happening and prioritize violent crimes. And in this case, they are going to start prioritizing gun crimes because that, curtails violent crimes. So there's stuff that's already on the books, laws that are already in the books that prevent people from having certain guns, certain people from having certain guns. They're just going to start like saying, hey, we're actually going to, bust people for, we're actually going to be on the lookout for people. We're actually going to proactively do our jobs.
But aren't these the same people that say they're having like a difficult time hiring new officers?
100, yes. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like, I don't know about the sheriff's office, but in San Jose, there's a lot of very legit reasons why they, and it's city leadership's fault, but they're not wrong. Like it's really, really difficult to bring on new people for a variety of reasons. Some of it's compensation, some of it's, the vitriol over pension battles and things like that, right? And political disputes and just it being a really hostile work environment. But when it comes down to it, it's just we're just not competitive in terms of creating a place that people that recruits want to be, right? They'd rather go. Why would you go to San Jose to be a cop? Why wouldn't you go to like San Bruno or Montecito, right? Like get paid just as much, get just as good of a pension, and don't have to deal with all the bullshit and the big city bullshit either, or the political bullshit. So it's tough. But so they're not wrong, but it is their fault. Like city councils, mayors, it's their fault that that there is this kind of this difficulty.
And I mean, not for nothing, San Jose is like one of the safest big cities in the country too. So it's pretty odd.
True. I think we slipped to fourth, all the way to fourth. But it's no matter what, ever since we slipped away from, I think there was just 1 year, frankly, we were named safest big city in the country because of some FBI metric of some sort, right? That thinks of all crimes, thinks of crimes in that way, or crime in different ways, and spits it out and says, you're the safest big city. I think it was only 1 year, but ever since then, every campaign, every election, it's been a centralized issue. I'm going to make San Jose the safest big city in America again. It's like, we're fourth. We're fourth. We're the 10th biggest city, and we're fourth safest big city. I think we're doing well. We're punching above our weight because we are, I think, a very tight-knit community. When it comes down to it, right? It's still a small town kind of attitude. Like, I know people everywhere in the city, right? Everyone, you can go out on any given night and bump into tons of people, mutual friends, things like that, right? So it's still a very suburban community. That's why it's safe, right? We're not Houston. We're not Chicago. We're not New York.
We're barely a city. We're just a giant suburb.
Trying very hard. We're trying very hard to have buildings taller than 23 stories.
Right. So up next, maybe tied to the fact that it's fairly safe here, is that the San Jose, and not just San Jose, the Bay Area, is fairly affluent. And that seems nice, but it actually isn't nice. And once again, high cost of housing is the largest concern for Bay Area residents.
In tonight's Making It in the Bay, more than crime, more than homelessness, it's about housing. A new study found that the high price of housing remains the biggest concern here in the Bay Area. And while, of course, that doesn't really come as a surprise, it is triggering old questions about how we got here, and more importantly, how do we fix it? Here's NBC Bay Area's Scott Budman.
Yeah, it says something about the Bay Area housing market that we can simultaneously have the biggest price drop in the country and still have the price of housing be our number one concern. Giovanni Giannata thinks about high-priced housing a lot.
Being a 32-year-old male living out here in the Bay Area, it's hard with a single income.
He says he loves living in the Bay Area, but
I don't know if I foresee myself actually purchasing a home anytime soon, just because of the cost and the median prices that just keep going up. So it's very difficult, and sometimes you think about moving out of the area.
In fact, the Public Policy Institute of California says 80% of Bay Area residents call housing affordability a major concern. That's more than any other single issue. From rent to mortgage, everything here is expensive. So how do we fix it? Well, experts say there have been efforts to build more housing, but never enough.
The way we got here is by just allowing the housing industry, the real estate industry, to run wild without any
Sandy coming to you from his closet.
Without any adequate government funding.
And even when government does get involved, the Policy Institute says residents often get in the way.
A lot of times people in that area adopt kind of the NIMBY mindset, if I'm sure you're familiar with that acronym of not in my backyard, and people just don't want it near them, but they'll still say it's needed, but not where I live.
The result? A decline in population, a rise in homelessness, and an issue that continues to dominate the headlines. Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main problem is that we have, when the housing gets built, it's always like luxury housing, right? Like, we've talked about this before. We just need housing projects. Like, that's what we need. We need government housing projects. There's no other fix, and people are terrified of that shit.
Yes. Right now, we do our very best, and we hit our goals for quote unquote market rate housing. You know what market rate housing is? Market housing you and I can't afford, but maybe tech bro mayors can afford. But that's what we build primarily. We don't meet our goals, and we have not met our goals for affordable housing for many, many years. And there's no teeth behind those goals. There's no sort of incentive to meet those goals. The state's not going to relinquish funding because we don't meet our goals. No one meets their fucking affordable housing goals. That's the problem, right? It's not just San Jose. It's not just Santa Clara County. We just don't meet our goals for creating that housing, and it perpetuates year over year, and it builds up year over year, and the backlog of all of this builds up year over year to the point that, we're in a housing crisis because we've just never met those goals. We've always had those aspirations, and it's not as though government entities and leaders didn't see this 20 years ago as an issue, right? Even during the first tech boom, right? All these jobs, all this money, where are these people going to live, right? Where are the people that serve these industries going to live? Are they going to be able to live here? They could have been thinking about this 20, 30 years ago. They were thinking about it, but they weren't doing anything about it. And it's only now that we're have this sense of urgency, we need to do something now. We need to do something now. We need to tear up our plans that we've crafted for the development of our city and really invest in doing this thing. And it's well, fuck, you should have done that 20 years ago. You should have done that when you were crafting the plan, the blueprint for the city, the general plan, put housing first. Instead, we have a general plan in San Jose that puts jobs first, that puts commercial lands first, that puts industrial lands first, and not housing, right? And they've had to spend the last 10 years that plan's been in place backtracking and pulling back and trying to figure out, how can we amend it so that we can put housing first, because they realized they should have done that to begin with. So it's unfortunate, but we've put ourselves in this position, and now we're behind. And like you said, the solution is government investment, but the problem is it could have been invested a long time ago when it was cheaper. Now it's they have money, but it's not enough to get land. It's not enough to build the units. So unless you want to just throw a bunch of shipping containers out at the fairgrounds, like Matt Mahan apparently wants to do, that's easy and cheap and quick. And it's out of people's way, maybe. but it's not going to help anything.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's going to get cheaper. You know, I would imagine that 15 years ago or whatever, when people were having this discussion, they were probably saying the same thing about it, that it's too expensive for the city or the county or whatever to do it. Well,
sure.
The same reason for it, I guess, rings true today, but then the fucking reason to do it now is the same reason as before, because it seems like we're on a trajectory where it's not going to get less expensive.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it never does. Nothing ever does over time, especially construction and labor costs and building costs. It's always going to get more expensive over time. That's why developers complain about the time it takes to get permits, to get entitled, as they say, for their projects, because time is money, right? Every day that they wait, it's more expensive to build, no matter what the economy looks like. And especially right now when labor is so tight, there's just not enough not enough bodies out there to do the work. So it costs a lot of money to build. So
yeah,
it's tough for everyone.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I think, like I said, every time new housing goes up, there's all this new luxury condos going up, and it's like, well,
yeah, oh yeah, that's almost the majority of what we're building, right? Is really nice places for people who can afford really nice shit, and the rest of us are left out in the cold, right? And eventually, there's not going to be people here to serve all these people, so they're going to have to fucking wash their own fucking cars.
I mean, some people are like literally left out in the cold.
Oh, 100%. And some people apparently want to be left out in the cold, if you believe Mayor Beto. This is what he said. Yeah.
Now we got Bart spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, but apparently only helped one person with that hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is I don't know, the Bart system at work, I suppose.
And it was found that Bart spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a homeless outreach program that resulted in one confirmed homeless person getting its services. The Inspector General's report examined Bart's connection to a 2-year, $350,000 program run by the Salvation Army. It paid for homeless outreach teams at San Francisco's 2 BART stations on Mission Street to help people with mental health and drug addiction problems.
Well, they could only confirm they helped one person, but the thing is, like, that may be a little bit misleading, because, like, how many people did they hire? You know?
Truth. And really, they helped one person, so they didn't help no persons, and that one person's probably pretty happy that they got help, right?
Kind of depends what the help. Kind of depends what the help was, right?
True. And depends on what that person does with that help and where they go from there. But who knows? Maybe that person touches another few people and another few people, and sure enough, you've touched hundreds of people.
So why the fuck is the transit agency like kind of left hand holding the bag to help like people that are homeless? They're fucking.
Well, I'm sure it was someone's good intention, someone at BART's really well intentioned idea to, invest some money in outreach. If you've been, you've been to the Mission and 16th and 24th Street stations, right?
Right.
Like that. If you ride the whole BART line, those are probably the 2 most just, impacted, shall we say? I don't know what the key word or the trigger word is, but impacted stations, like just a lot of real need in those neighborhoods, in and around there. So it's a good idea, I'd say, but obviously poor execution, and a lot of the time, and something actually I got from my sister-in-law, who was recently appointed to city council in a small city here in Santa Clara County. She likes to point out that sometimes we have really good policies and really good ideas, and we just don't do enough work of centering the policies around what people actually need and the people who we're trying to serve, right? And reaching out to them in ways and means and that they understand and will accept and appreciate. So really enlisting in lived experience in our policy making. I really appreciate that. So maybe that was the fault here. Who knows? But it could have been just really poor outreach and really poor design of the program rather than the intention.
You'd mentioned 16th and 24th Street in Mission, and those are actually the 2 stations I'm most likely to get off of BART at.
Yeah, right. Watch out. Apparently there's a lot of mental health issues.
Because those are like south of Market. So
right. Well, they have delicious restaurants within walking distance of both of those stations. So please frequent the mission. Get out there and eat some food and talk to people and help folks out.
Those are the stations also walking distance to the Castro. If you're willing to, walk a little bit.
Dude, who's not willing to walk a little bit? Get exercise, you get fresh air, curl the fog, have a little cigarette. Okay, maybe not fresh air. Anyway, but what's up next on Winners and Losers?
I feel like we have one more in Winners and Losers here, and it seems like it's probably a NIMBY issue. There's a battle over benches in the Bernal Heights neighborhood. Bernal Heights is kind of a nice, swanky part of the city generally. And so I imagine that there are people who are upset that folks who that they don't think should be using the benches are using the benches. But let's see what's really going on with this story from NBC Bay Area here.
On Mirabel Avenue, it's easy to see neighbors are invested in their neighborhood. There are plants and benches. Some are stone, others are like this one around a tree. All are popular with the locals.
We built it 3 years ago.
Gail Wilson says they repainted it before the rain and reinforced it. Wilson says the bench is used often.
It has a lot of uses, and it's not in the way. Wheelchairs can go by, strollers can go by.
But the bench recently received a notice of violation, meaning they need to remove it or get a minor encroachment permit. That permit runs about $1,400.
With all the other problems we have in the city, they're going to pick on Mirabel because we have benches that's helping people. It's like, come on, there's so many other issues. The converters getting stolen out of cars, the homeless stuff. I mean, come on.
The sidewalks are extra wide, so these benches are not obstructing anything, and I just really feel that there's a big kerfluffle over nothing.
We got a complaint to the 311 Customer Service Center.
San Francisco Public Works says 2 notices were issued for benches on the block.
We want to make sure of, though, is that there are rules around these benches. So we want to make sure that it is ADA compliant. Can wheelchairs pass through on the sidewalk?
Stuff it, Rachel.
Will there be any hazards for anyone if they walk by, especially the visually impaired?
A Public Works spokesperson says they're not allowed to waive permit fees, but the Board of Supervisors can. The spokesperson also says they're working with elected leaders to see how they can make this work. Supervisor Hillary Ronan's office issued a statement saying, in part, "My office is working closely with DPW to come up with a plan to keep these benches where they are. We know they are beloved and an important community asset for neighbors and passersby." For the city's part, they've extended the deadline, saying the neighborhood now has until April to sort things out. Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
This was not what I thought that story was going to be at all.
Yeah, this took a turn that I was not expecting whatsoever. I'm really glad I didn't watch this in advance too. I'm really pissed off now. Like $1,400 permit. Jesus Christ. Like, I am completely on board with that lady. What the fuck, you guys? Like, we just talked about just a few minutes ago, right? The triaging of crime. Like, seriously, you're going to prioritize this Public Works? And that woman, like, invoking the Public Works spokesperson, invoking the sight impaired, right? The vision impaired. Like, blind people be like, fuck you, lady. You think I can't figure out there's a fucking bench in my way? Like, give me a break, man. Oh, Jesus. This is just like the ultimate of, I almost want to put this under get your shit together. This is the ultimate in like government overreach, right? Like, people are actually doing something. They didn't make these benches so that you couldn't sleep on them too, right? You notice you could curl up on one of those things, right? There were no impediments or barriers. So they're just doing a solid. And those concrete benches or the stone benches, they're kind of cool. They look hip. It looks like a cool neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just not what I thought. I thought that they were going to be mad that some people were going to be mad because right, folks were sleeping on them. No. This time the city's like, see that beautiful bench that you maintain and paint? You painted it before the rainy season to make sure that it didn't fall apart. And you made sure that it was sturdy and it barely goes out past the little metal thing that we have for the tree. Well, that's a big problem on this double wide sidewalk that you have in your neighborhood. The only place in San Francisco, by the way, where I've ever seen a sidewalk that's that wide.
That was double wide, right? Yeah, for sure. That was seriously wide sidewalk. And like, I have to give it up to crotchety old white lady who you would think is like, and they're getting in the way, these benches. I'm trying to walk. No, she's all for it, and she doesn't understand what the kerfluffle is. So if you had that in your bingo card, kerfluffle, mark it down. We had it on Downballot, kerfluffle. I'm so excited.
And I just wonder, like, if somebody's like in a wheelchair or has, issues with their sight, I'm not sure that walking down the sidewalk and like, maybe if the bench was more obtrusive or whatever, and like hitting your knee on the bench or whatever, are those people more concerned with that or with drivers when they go to cross the street? Like, what is the concern of somebody who has sight impairments? I'm just
right.
A fucking random scooter could be laying in the middle of the sidewalk and trip you up, or it could fall out of a tree, as we've seen before.
Right, or get jumped into the lake. It's sort of like, trip over or get run over by a car. Shame on driver, right? Shame on you. Trip over a bench, like, shame on me, honestly. Like, I should have seen that coming, no pun intended.
Well, I mean, somebody who's has visual impairments might, it might be a problem, but I didn't see where it would be a problem there. And honestly, like, if you've lived in the city for a while with visual impairments, you're pretty good at navigating the city. If you're walking around, you've taken whatever steps are necessary to figure it out. I'm fully sighted. I couldn't imagine. And it'd be one thing if there were like disability advocates groups or something out there kind of mentioning it, but it just seems like some asshole at Public Works saw the bench and was like, "Oh, is there a permit for that bench?" And it's like, well, maybe you didn't see that bench and you could go about the rest of your, if I see somebody shoplifting bread, no, I didn't. Maybe they could do the same thing with the bench.
I didn't see no fucking bench, Rachel. Like, might as well be Karen from Public Works. You're exactly right. It's not like this is something where you'd think it was like either neighbors getting pissed off because they're unsightly and they're homeless people are sleeping on them and we don't like that. No, they're all for it. It's this bureaucrat from Public Works who's like, well, it's 1 inch over the line and we have permits for this kind of thing and we need to be careful and people could get hurt. But like you said, if you're visually impaired, it's not as though it's some sort of moving target. It's not as though you don't walk around your neighborhood and know where these things are, right? Like it's and they're being used as an excuse for whatever reason. I don't understand what this is, to fill a quota or maybe one person complained. I could see maybe one person complained, and so Public Works is doing something about it to please that one person.
Well, this is gonna turn me into a fucking libertarian. I'm all bench free or die. It's like
let me bench. Anyway, give me bench or give me death.
Don't tread on my fucking bench. My God.
So should we get our shit together at this point?
Man,
getting on in the evening.
I mean, this next story is going to be another one of those stories where people like are in a city and then are like, well, what I really want is for this to not be a city.
Yeah,
we deal with that a lot in San Jose. It is it is surprising to see it in San Francisco. I don't know exactly where Cap Street is, but maybe they'll tell us in the news segment what district it is. Yeah, this is people just mad that their city is a city. News at 10 in this case, because I can see the little timer on the video.
Roll
New 10 starting this week. Barriers are set to go up on one San Francisco street to try to crack down on prostitution. This is happening along Cap Street between 18th and 22nd Streets in the city's Mission District.
Yep.
KTVU's Alyssa Harrington is there and spoke with neighbors about the plan. Alyssa.
Well, neighbors tell me once it gets dark, this street is no longer theirs. They say they witness all sorts of illegal activity and aren't sure the barriers address the root of the problem.
The red lights go on.
There's a huge line of traffic.
Neighbors along San Francisco's Cap Street shared pictures and videos of what they see out their windows on almost a nightly basis. What they believe are sex workers and their pimps, while a line full of Johns in their vehicles clogged the street.
There's rampant prostitution on Cap Street.
Residents we talked to did not want their faces on camera. They told us the situation has become dangerous.
Violence of the pimps, that they not only intimidate the women and manhandle them aggressively, they also sometimes intimidate the neighbors.
Noise it brings at night. I mean, I wake up multiple times a week at night. My kids have missed school. I've missed work. It's the Johns driving by in their car, racing back and forth, turning their music on, having sideshows with their cars.
The city announced it is taking steps to curb this sort of activity. Starting this week, barriers will go up along Cap Street between 22nd and 18th Streets.
They're about 2 feet tall. They're big orange plastic barricades that you fill with water.
Santiago Lerma, legislative aide to Supervisor Hillary Ronen, said they visited Cap Street on a Friday night to see the problem for themselves and realized urgent action needed to be taken.
What you see is a large amount of traffic on Cap Street, bumper to bumper almost. John's cruising up and down, looking for sex workers.
This poor guy.
So what the intent behind the barricades is to disrupt the kind of cruising.
We don't want to talk about people as disposable. We don't want to talk about people like they're cockroaches that we're trying to exterminate from the neighborhood.
Celestina Pearl is an outreach manager with St. James Infirmary, a community clinic that provides support for sex workers in the city.
So I'm very concerned about the young women who work on this street, who get so very little voice and so very little power and control over their own lives. And I know it's not a very popular opinion, especially in this neighborhood.
Neighbors told us they do realize many of the workers are being trafficked and are victims, but they want enforcement and accountability so they can simply walk outside their homes at night and raise their kids in a safe community.
Most of us, if not all of us, don't really have a problem with the sex workers or even their business itself. It's really the fact that this is a residential neighborhood.
District Attorney Brooke Jenkins sent me a statement saying the DA's office is working to address prostitution and human trafficking concerns. She said 14 Johns have received citations, and the office is prepared to prosecute any pimps or human traffickers. Reporting live in San Francisco, I'm Alyssa Harrington, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
So, Alyssa, if they just block or put up barriers along Cap Street, do they worry or are they concerned that the problem will just move over to other streets?
That is a concern, but neighbors say that they would prefer that. Residents will be able to get through.
All right, Alyssa Harrington reporting live for us tonight in San Francisco. Thank you.
So I don't know, I don't know what the barricades are. Are the barricades just going to mean that, like, to get there, you have to turn left and then turn right and then turn left again?
Something along those lines. It's either barricades or speed humps or something, or along the something else. Don't you think that this might mean they would just use another street? You think? Holy shit. There's so much laughable. This story went exactly the way that I thought the previous story was going to go.
Right.
With just like two neighbors basically who don't want to show their faces, just their Doc Martens, complaining about kids missing school because of Johns lined up on their street. It's like, seriously, like, your kids are that light sleepers? Like, and what are you doing you're out there just looking out your window all night, like, don't you have a life? Is it really that loud? I don't think so. Come on, it's a city, like you said. You live in a city. You live in the Mission. You live in the Mission District, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. That's
what do you expect?
There's like dance clubs and shit there with like hella loud music and whatnot. Like,
fucking Ike's is open late, or the burrito shop, like, it's like, you live in a city, you live in the Mission District. What do you expect? I would move to the Mission District for that, right? For that vibrance. I would point out that to my kids, like, see that? That's a sex worker. She's just doing what she needs to do to survive. It sucks that she has to do that, but that's just what she's doing, right? Don't disrespect her, right? That is why I would move to a place like the Mission, not something that would offend me happening in the Mission if I moved there, right? Like, I didn't think I wouldn't expect that I moved to the Sunset if I moved to the Mission, right?
And not for nothing that neighborhood looked like it had been recently fairly gentrified. Did you see like the way the buildings looked? It looked like fucking like apartment complexes you'd see near Barton Fremont or something.
Yeah, those little like 3-story, condo plexes or whatever. Yeah, totally. It looked way gentrified. So I'm a little maybe that's why I haven't heard of Cap Street before, and that's why people are so uppity, and that's why Brooke Jenkins is trying to help, because she wants to get reelected at some point.
Yeah, I can see. I can hear the property management or the real estate agent going, well, you get all of the excitement and culture of living in the Mission in this little neighborhood here, but look at how nice everything is.
Exactly right. God.
And then if I was a sex worker, I'd be like, let's go do this in this neighborhood that looks nice. Maybe we'll be safer over here. I don't know.
Right. I mean, well, that gets to a really good point. We talk about, say, San Francisco itself has been exploring safe injection sites, safe usage sites, right? Safe housing sites, homeless, resource centers. Is there some way we can't have some sort of officially sanctioned red light district? I mean, doesn't Amsterdam have this going on, right? Like we can do this. It's not that hard to figure this out. Prostitution does not have to be illegal, right?
Well, I mean, you'd run up against any number of federal and state laws. I think that you know what I mean. Like it's
done it before.
The solution is unfortunately much larger. It's a big structural solution.
True. I mean, but to be fair, San Francisco started marrying the gays and letting people smoke the pot before it was legal at higher levels. So sometimes it takes the cities to and the smaller agencies and the smaller entities to spark the change, right? To be the guinea pig, the laboratory, whatever, for new policy. So who knows?
But I feel like the other thing is if you just drop like a red light district in somebody's neighborhood, like I don't know, I could see where maybe somebody would be upset by that.
Well, you'd have to do extensive community outreach, producer Dave, obviously, and really engage with folks around and make sure that they really want it in their neighborhood, right? Or it'd have to be out of the way, right, in an industrial neighborhood of some sort. But we can figure this out.
Or you put it in like the really dense parts of South of Market where there's already just a lot of entertainment and hustle and bustle going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So because
sort of blends
this
in.
It's not like these people lived above 1015 Folsom or what, you know what I mean? Like where there's already so much noise and traffic.
Yeah.
It was like this little, almost like cute gentrified enclave in the Mission that it seems to be. So you'd have to put it somewhere where there's already kind of a lot of hustle and bustle. But I just can't imagine the fucking uproar from the NIMBYs if San Francisco started issuing maybe not permits, but like we'll look the other way if you do the following.
Right. And for stuff that's like, unlike generally homelessness, which is not illegal, by the way, being homeless. If suddenly you actually have something that is illegal, right, and you're sanctioning it in a community, I'm guessing that the neighbors would not be so excited about it. Because that's usually the number one thing that people cite is that they don't feel safe. We need to help the homeless, but I don't want it in my community because I don't feel safe, or my kids miss school, or are not safe, right? Because homeless people make crimes. So similar here, although these people are committing crimes, like that's the whole point, is that this is a crime still, which is ridiculous, but it's a crime. So maybe we need to get to decriminalizing prostitution in the first place, and then figure out a way to help these folks and get those Johns what they really need. Just a good hand job.
All right, well, let's move on to Down Ballot Watch here. We got elected officials speaking out about threats of violence.
In Oakland today, a power show of solidarity. Several prominent East Bay politicians are coming together to denounce what they say are violent threats against female political leaders. NBC Bay Area's Valina Jones shows us some of the threats and what's being done.
The reality is, when we speak of the harm that is committed against us, you need to believe us.
A call to action to support Black leaders and denounce what several East Bay politicians say are escalating threats against Black women in leadership.
If we stay quiet about this type of abuse, the efforts to discredit the work of women of color leaders will persist.
The plea for solidarity comes after constant calls like this one directed at Senator Aisha Wahab.
What's up, you I just your mother.
Threatening rape and violence. Last month, Councilmember Carol Fife says she received similar threats calling for her rape and murder.
Do you need to be murdered?
Awesome.
Do you need to be carjacked or raped to get it through your thick skull? What is wrong with you? Do you have security? Huh? Do you?
Your comments have consequences, and there are people intentionally stoking fear and anger and resentment throughout this city. And so when you hear it and when you see it, you call it out.
Fife says threats have always been an issue, but started getting worse in 2021. While she didn't speculate who might be behind the threats, she says she's exploring legal options and law enforcement is involved. The city is also working to increase security at City Hall before the building reopens next month. And the threats are not only targeting women elected to office. Activist Kat Brooks claims she's been harassed and threatened so badly, she was forced to move.
Because they don't like what I have to say, they think it is okay to threaten my life, to threaten my home, to threaten my child.
Political leaders say they need the community to stand with them and say with one clear voice that these women of color will not back down and these threats won't be tolerated.
We will not be silenced. We will continue to do the transformative work that it takes to change society.
In Oakland, Valina Jones, NBC Bay Area News.
So not for nothing, like when you see like violent rhetoric, like on the national level too, it's oftentimes targeted at women legislators of color in the House and the Senate too. I'm thinking of Ilhan Omar,
of course, Ilhan
AOC,
and anyone in the squad or whatever. Right?
Yeah, and I just that person that jumped on the city council was like, oh, you need to have a violent thing happen to you for you to understand the issue of violence. It's like, whoa, dude, you're like on the record saying that. That means that you don't care that people know that that's what you're doing. Like, you don't think, like, forget legal consequences. Your name, your full name and shit is on the record. You don't even care about like potential social consequences or people not like liking you. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of that matters.
Social circle, their whole social circle is folks like them, right? People who feel the same way, right? So why should they care, right? They only. That's how this mob mentality perpetuates and ferments, right? Is that they are in this echo chamber, of ideas, of ideology, and they're not really. They don't have friends outside that circle, so they're not risking losing anybody. They're just, they're speaking to their friends, right? They're speaking to their peeps. And this is just, it's awful. Sorry. Go ahead.
We've seen like an uptick in this stuff, like in person too, at city council meetings, board of supervisors meetings. I mean, for a long time, the upfront hour of the Sunday show was just clip after clip after clip of people going to the school board and threatening Mrs. Pennington. And or some retired teacher who's like, oh, I'd still like to serve. Maybe I'll run for the school board. And then somebody goes up there and like screaming at her about fucking critical race theory and the Nuremberg trial and shit. And I mean, you laugh because what else are you going to do, right? Obviously, it's not funny. Right. It's only like it's how that's how we get here, is that people see other people doing it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that like no matter how incompetent or corrupt, even frankly, your city government or your school board or your county government is, no one deserves that, right? Like, there's just no place for that. There's just no place for death threats and threats of violence. Like, who are you, right? Like, there are so many other places to invest your energy and time, but there's no place for that at all. So it's really disgusting. But it happens all the time. Yeah, and you're right. It's mostly women of color, especially women who have to deal with it. Because there is such misogyny and vitriol and hate out there in the community still to this day. And it's going to persist until the end of time, frankly. Like, we're going to be dealing with people and issues like this until forever, right? But the more we can call it out, like we do here, and you do on the Sunday show very well, I think, the more I think we're going to shine a light on it and hopefully force these asshats into some sort of, corner of obscurity and irrelevance, to the point that what they say has no merit anymore and isn't listened to by anyone.
Well, up next, somebody who's probably never going to deal with the intensity and style of threats that we just witnessed and we just heard about in the last story. It's Evil Beto, the new mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, and he's going to talk about getting back to basics during his public inauguration as mayor, whatever getting back to basics means.
In the South Bay,
hand jobs and blowjobs.
Officially underway. Tonight marked the public inauguration for the city of San Jose's newly elected mayor, Matt Mahan. He has already had a busy first month in office. And as ABC 7 News reporter Amanda Del Castillo reports, Mahan is now planning for what's to come.
Cultural performances, a packed house, and
like we need some things that are ethnic.
Mayor of San Jose. Mayor Matt Mahan's inaugural address Wednesday focused on his push to get, quote, back to the basics.
To prioritize a few things that impact everybody's life, impact our collective quality of life, impact our safety, impact our economic competitiveness, is that it's that critical that we move the needle on homelessness, blight, and crime.
From San Jose.
Blight? What the fuck is he talking? Where the fuck is the blight in San Jose? He keeps using this word like it's fucking Detroit 15 years ago or something. Like there was blight in Detroit. Buildings were falling apart. Like what does he mean when he says blight?
It's the gas station down the street that just needs a little bit of shine on it, right? Like it's actually a word that was sort of verboten for a long time in San Jose. Like I remember using the word blight to describe like a corner in my council district in Willow Glen that was, a little run down. And someone just tore me a new asshole on Twitter. Like blight, what are you talking about? Blight? That's a racist term. You're just saying it's minorities and people of color and it's small businesses and God forbid that Willow Glen, have some of that in it, some character. They tore me a new asshole, and they were right to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you go on Tucker Carlson and complain that you'd been canceled, or did you listen?
No, not at all.
Even though the person seems to have engaged with you in an angry way, did you maybe try to find what they were getting at and try to figure out what they were saying and be like, oh, you know what? Let me think about that actually.
Yeah, 100%. And frankly, it was a friend, and I was called out, and they were right. They were right to call me out. So, but funny story, they were working for Mayor Liccardo at the time, right? And now, Mayor Liccardo and his little baby here are calling out blight and making it a huge point of their, talking point of his campaign and his new administration. And I went back to the same person and said, like, hey, what do you have to say about that? And they were like, well, touche, but they were right. Like it's a trigger word. It's a freaking dog whistle. And yeah, we need to stop using it. But now it's becoming the lexicon. Now, like even progressive candidates are using it. Even Cindy Chavez is talking about clean, safe city, right? Like eliminating blight. So what are we going to do now? Like it's become part of the lexicon.
And like not for nothing that the city is clean.
It is. It fucking is. It's like we have the nice what are they called? Art Nouveau or fucking public toilets, right? So like there's no poop. I've never seen poop on the street in San Jose except for dog poop. I've never seen I've never really encountered any sort of what I would call blight, like buildings, like you said, buildings that are about to fucking collapse, right? So I don't understand what this issue is, other than everyone's just way too fucking sensitive and way too suburban and not really recognizing that we live in a fucking city.
And we're not even a city. We're just a giant suburb with like a tiny downtown. Like we're Mountain View and Campbell are more like cities than San Jose is.
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to be. I think that's hashtag trying to be.
Inaugural action days meant to usher in a new era of resident engagement.
Over the next 10 weeks, a cleanup in each of our 10 council districts, and we plan to get hundreds of residents out to directly play a role in cleaning up and beautifying their neighborhoods.
For the unhoused, he's working to expand programs like Cash for Trash.
We will put these people in a truck.
Unhoused residents, hoping to provide them with opportunity, income, and dignity of work.
Next, we'll get back to basics by addressing unmanaged encampments.
He wants to scale up shelter capacity and transitional facilities, focusing on innovative approaches he says are faster and more cost-effective, pointing to what he hopes is an end to the era of encampments.
Finally, we get back to basics by focusing on public safety,
where the city committed to increasing police staffing by 15 officers per year over the next 5 years. He's working to double that rate to 30 added officers a year to improve response times across America's 10th largest city.
Today, our priority 1 response time is 7 minutes. Priority 2 is 23 minutes, more than double our performance target. That is the unacceptable result of low staffing levels.
But in the crowd of supporters, city leaders, supervisors, police, and fire chiefs, some feel the mayor has missed the message on other issues like animal welfare.
I actually actively work with the homeless community, helping them get spay and neuter services, food for their pets. So it ties together. You can't address the homeless.
Fuck you, Mayor
without
Beto.
also addressing their
Dogs need help.
elsewhere.
I'm a medical marijuana activist, and I'm trying to get taxes waived for people that use medical marijuana for their pains and ailments, because we shouldn't be paying tax on that. It's a prescription.
As his 2-year term gets underway, Mahan details his determination to bring solutions to San Jose.
The solutions don't have to all be mine. In fact, they won't be. They'll come from across the ideological spectrum. They'll come from council members representing a very diverse range of neighborhoods and districts.
Was that baton clean?
In San Jose, I'm Amanda Del Castillo, ABC 7 News.
Fucking shut the fuck up. Like, this is like, there's a whole, like, this city has, what are they, like, they're called City Works or whatever, that goes around downtown and like picks up trash.
There's a few different. There's the Downtown Streets team, which is a nonprofit that employs another bugaboo of mine is people that come up with ideas on the campaign trail that are actually already that exist. There's a nonprofit called Downtown Streets team that employs unhoused residents in beautifying the city, cleaning up, doing stuff that most of us probably wouldn't want to do in exchange for money, like salary, right, and then resources and connection to services. So these things happen. Groundworks is what you're talking about. That's a company or a vendor that's employed by the Downtown Association, which is another nonprofit that supports the downtown. And they go around beautifying, cleaning up, sprucing up downtown, and keeping it nice and clean. Like, you'll see them any given day. You'll see folks out there spray washing and beautifying downtown San Jose, making it clean for all of us to go down and spend our money and do our commerce and our entertaining, right? And yet, all we hear, right? You hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want to go downtown San Jose. It's too dirty. There's too many homeless.
That's not why I don't want to go. I think it's not dirty enough, and there's not enough enough entertainment.
Right? Like, that's the thing. It's almost too clean. It's almost too quiet and clean. Like, I want a little filth. I want a little grime in my city. I'm in a city, man. I remember bringing friends here when I was in Le Collège Université, right? And they lived across the country. They didn't want to go home for Thanksgiving, so they came with me, and we would come to San Jose. And these are people from like New York, from Queens, right, or from Chicago or Denver, big cities. And they look at San Jose and they're like, "What the fuck, man? This is like some sort of backwards fucking hillbilly Mayberry RFD, right? This ain't no city." And this was 20, 30 years ago, before we actually had buildings that were taller than 15 stories, right? Or the Adobe buildings, right? Now we actually have a downtown that kind of looks like a downtown, and we have things that kind of look like city, but still, I feel I would be embarrassed still to bring friends here and be like, "Yeah, we're the 10th largest city in the country, wah wah wah." But it's we're still a suburb. We're pretty much a suburb, and we act like it too. So until we start acting like a city, we're not going to really be a city. So why are we worried about being the safest big city when we're not really, all that excited about being a city in the first place, right? The same people that are worried about safety and being the safe city are the people who would say we don't live in a city or don't want to live in a city. Sorry, go ahead.
It's such a weird thing too. When I lived in Campbell, I met so many people who came to Campbell from San Jose to go out, and it's like there's more to do in fucking 3 blocks of downtown Campbell kind of than there is in like the San Jose downtown area.
Well, there is. It's just that it's not really conducive to that. There's like pockets, there's things all over the place. It's just that it's not really walkable and connected, and you go down there and you don't really feel a sense of like, I'm just going to go explore, right? It's just not what you do there. Whereas in Campbell, you just walk up and down the main drag. In Mountain View, you walk up and down Castro, right? And now they've even closed down Castro, right? Parts of Castro. And San Jose's getting there. Like, we closed down San Pedro. We're closing down Post Street, looks like. And hopefully maybe one day we'll close down South First Street.
Post Street shouldn't even fucking be there. That should just be a walkway.
Yeah, right. It shouldn't even be a street, right? And eventually we'll get around to closing down South First Street. So we'll create, you can create these neighborhoods. You can encourage them, but there's also the organic nature of it too, right? It's the people that make them, and the more that housing costs and really poor planning are forcing people out who are that creative, youthful, energetic, unique, diverse, subset of the community, the more you force them out, you don't have that organic, community sense of community. You don't have those organic neighborhoods that just crop up, that just exist, right? Like, everyone wants to be San Francisco or some, the reason why San Francisco's neighborhoods and New York's neighborhoods are like they are in Chicago's neighborhoods is because over many, many years and decades and centuries even, they've developed a character from the people that live there, right? And the people that live there define it. And unfortunately, San Jose is becoming a land of tech bros like Matt Mahan, right? We're becoming a huge city of just Matt Mahans. And therefore, we're not going to have any character. We're not going to have any real sense of community because we're just going to be a bunch of, affluent, white, suburban dumb fucks, right? And we're never going to get to be the city that I think that some of us really wanted to be. And it's unfortunate for my daughter and for everyone else.
I just remember a friend of mine had their 21st birthday. It was about 6 years ago. And we all went out bar hopping. And it was more like bar journeying. We had to go so far.
You're like exhausted by the time you get to the second bar, right?
We had to go so far to get from fucking like the little gay district where like 55 South and Max and Splashes to get over to like this sofa area. It's not far. It wasn't like we were like water or begging for water or dying, but like
there
was
3 blocks.
Like even just like it was just like the only thing around the corner from there was the Caravan, and we were like, well, there was nothing at the Caravan we wanted to do, and so it's like we had to walk all the way. We wanted to go to what was going on at Pierre's place, the back bar at the time, and it was just like it was like a 15-minute walk, and it's like, well, this isn't really bar hopping, is it? So it's like,
no, it's
I don't know. I feel like there's just so much wrong with downtown San Jose. And like none of the restaurants are even open at past 9, for God's sakes. If you want anything after 9, you're going to like, and there's nothing wrong with La Vix, but my God, how many times can you go to La Vix?
Yeah, it's like really the only thing at some point, right? Yeah. Well, maybe you and I can offline, we'll figure out a way to solve downtown.
Nobody will like it.
We'll have a whole show about it. Get your shit together, downtown San Jose.
So we're going to move on. We got 2 more stories here before we get out of here. We got the Oakland police chief on leave accuses the federal monitor of faulty conclusions. We've been following this for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, it's the never-ending saga. So the city says you wrong. The chief says I ain't wrong. You wrong. So here we go.
VU Fox 2 News on KTVU Plus.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Meebeck.
And I'm Christina Rendon. Oakland Police Chief Laurent Armstrong not staying quiet after being put on paid leave. He spoke out again today, this time from an East Oakland church.
As KTVU crime reporter Henry Lee explains, the top cop says the independent monitor in charge of overseeing the department reforms used faulty logic to help push him to the sidelines.
This is an injustice. This is not fair.
Speaking Sunday from Acts Full Gospel Church, Oakland Police Chief Laurent Armstrong, who's on paid leave, says he was wrongly sidelined because of allegations, he says, that are flat out wrong.
Confidential report and information provided by the monitor is embarrassing. It's inaccurate. It contradicts itself about the role that I played in this case.
The chief is blaming this man, independent monitor Robert Warshaw, who's overseeing department reforms.
The report blatantly misstates and mischaracterizes key statements during my recorded interview.
The monitor does not discuss his work. Mayor Sheng Tao, who placed the chief on leave, has said it's not a punitive action. Sources say Sergeant Michael Chung is accused of covering up the fact that he hit a Mercedes with a department-issued Chevy Tahoe in a San Francisco parking garage. The crash...
They mentioned the kinds of cars that was. That was interesting. None of them were Teslas.
$1,000 in damage. Sources say then Internal Affairs Captain Wilson Lau allegedly ordered a subordinate to downplay what Chung had done. But the chief says he was given an incomplete set of facts.
In this case, that information was not brought to me, so I was not able to take the proper action.
That same sergeant is also accused of later firing his gun inside a service elevator at Oakland Police headquarters and then throwing the shell casing from the Bay Bridge.
Whoa!
The monitor yanked the probe of that case away from the department. Supporters say the chief needs to be reinstated.
We don't want to see his career tarnished. He does not deserve the treatment that he is receiving in this particular case.
It's just like a kindergarten teacher that goes on leave. And after they go on leave, a sick leave or whatever, the class just acts up until that teacher gets back. Oakland is acting up.
What's troubling is a succession of police chiefs have come and gone,
And yet it just seems like an impossible job.
Chuck Wexler heads a police research organization.
What will it take to be police chief there? It just seems like the bar keeps
checking his bathroom.
Pulled higher and higher.
So the chief's on leave, the sergeant accused of the 2 incidents is on leave, and that former Oakland Internal Affairs captain, he's now with the East Bay Regional Park Police District, where he's also on leave. In Oakland, Henry Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Can't
going.
even escape on the park police. Sorry.
I don't know what's going on here, but that lady who said, "Well, when the police chief's away, people do more crime." It's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're like, "Oh, am I gonna knock over this liquor store?" I don't know. Is the police chief's on leave? All right, we're gonna knock over this liquor store. Like, nobody does that.
Or maybe she was referring to the cops themselves. Who knows? When the cat's away, the mice will play. Who knows?
Well, that could be the case. Yeah.
But we'll see who's right and who comes out on top of this thing. I do think that the Chiefs, I'm not going to say the Chiefs not getting a raw deal in this. Frankly, I mean Oakland PD has a lot of issues. Oakland itself has a lot of issues in public safety. So blaming it on any one person is kind of silly to me. They should get their shit together. Maybe that should be on get your shit together. Who knows?
This whole docket's been time to get your shit together. We got one more. Usually we do an animal interest story, but I even looked when I saw the docket and there was no animal interest story. I didn't see any interesting animals. And so looks like the city of Oakland strikes a historic deal to revitalize the Oakland Coliseum, which is weird because I thought they were building a new one.
They were thinking about it, but I think that might be falling through.
Well, yeah, the dock workers had a good fucking point. They're like, yeah, I'm trying to work and there's all these drunk people fucking leaving the Oakland Coliseum while I'm trying to drive my truck to like deliver goods to people. Yeah, those people, the dock workers had a fucking point. And I'm glad they did. If they're abandoning that particular proposal right there in the port of Oakland, essentially, don't put your fucking stadium in one of the busiest ports. You get the fuck out of here. Let those. I've seen season 2 of The Wire. I know what's going on. Anyway, here's the local news report about retrofitting the existing Coliseum, which I think is probably the right thing to do.
Yes.
Right now at 11, turning the page on the Raiders, the Warriors, and maybe even the A's. Oakland leaders lay out a new game plan for the Oakland Coliseum and the surrounding neighborhood. Good morning. Thanks for joining us for our midday newscast. I'm Marcus Washington.
Nice sweater.
A reminder, you can also watch us live on Roku.
I like that lady's pants, too.
Online. I'm here
Those
with
are hot.
digital journalist Abby Fernandez.
Rainbow Shepherd.
Oakland leaders are really talking about a historic agreement that could revitalize that entire area, maybe even bring in a new sports team.
Yeah, hi, Laura. As the Oakland A's look to leave, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen to the Coliseum. Well, there's a big group full of big dreams for that area, and today they sealed the deal. Here's a live look at the Coliseum. The city of Oakland announced what they're calling a historic partnership with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. By the way, this is an Oakland-based group founded in 2020. Its main purpose is to use sports and entertainment to create a path for enhanced economic equity for the Black community. Now, the partnership involves an exclusive negotiating agreement to develop the Coliseum complex. Here's a rendering of what it could look like. The group wants to transform the hundreds of acres of land surrounding the Coliseum site to become a center for sports, entertainment, and residential use. The group's other big dreams, Laura, include forming
that dance club's not going to get a permit. Too much fun.
NFL franchise right here in Oakland, and the big talker bringing a WNBA team to the city.
Talking about new public facilities. We're talking about more retail in an underserved area and an underserved part of Oakland. We're talking about hospitality and entertainment options. We're talking about more sports, and I see our young people here today. A football team. Give our young people a round of applause. We're talking about affordable housing. So who have lived here in Oakland for generations, that their families can continue to live here. And I want to say it again.
Yeah, Mayor Tao also says, Laura, this project will create about 20 to 30,000 new jobs in Oakland.
Which is huge. This is really a big deal for the city. And not just
how much housing?
Development. Yeah, that's right, Laura. So many are calling this agreement historic as it's the largest development opportunity from an African-American-led group in Oakland's entire history.
Wow, that's pretty huge. Yeah. All right, a lot to cover there. Thanks so much, Abby.
Nice pants, Abby.
So, I mean, this is fine, but it's like somebody in chat said, it just looks like it's like a posh development that they're trying to put there.
Yeah, it could gentrify the community just as much as anything else. But like you said, I mean, that's the space. They have the space. They're able to use that space. They don't have to invade the dock worker space or, shoehorn some sort of development in somewhere where it's not necessary or not needed or not wanted. They have a space that's already used for this purpose. Like, let's use it and ramp it up and use all those parking lots for, housing and good shit, shit that helps people. So we'll see. But right now it's pie in the sky still, but the A's are looking like they're moving to Vegas, like the Raiders. So poor Oakland is losing all their sports franchises, but that's okay. Like, they still have the people. Like I said, people make the city. So keep the people. Figure out a way to make this space work for the people, and you're gonna have success.
Great. Well, that's been Down Ballot. You want to read us out, Councilman?
Absolutely, Producer Dave. Thank you so much again for rocking the dials as always. Everyone out there, thanks to the chat for being so lively and providing answers that we cannot possibly look up on our own during the show. Thank you to everyone on Patreon and everywhere else who gives us shill bucks to keep this network rolling. Please stay tuned for Local Love tonight, with local music with Producer Dave and special guests as always. And you know what we always say here. You got to get vaxxed. The bad baby got vaxxed today. So get vaxxed, wear a mask, pants are optional, and we hope to see you next week, 7:30 p.m. live every Tuesday night.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink, spark it if you got it, and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rockin' the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just what we want and enjoy the band. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. We just what we want and enjoy what we want is to jam. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. Just sit back and enjoy what we want is to jam.
Hey everybody, we got a brand new swag shop. It's powered by Fourth Wall and it's really great. It's at eplex.store. That's EPLEX.store. Hopefully you find something there you like. I'm partial to the one with Jordan Peterson and Jesus.